Welcome to this NAMC Institute of Zoroastrian Studies discussion group, Zoroastrianism Outside the Box. So the North American Morbid Council is a consortium of Morbids of North America dedicated to the service of religious and spiritual needs of North American Zoroastrian community. The Institute of Zoroastrian Studies is an educational arm of NAMC with an objective to train Morbids and to impart knowledge of Zoroastrianism to fellow Zoroastrians and the community at large. These monthly discussion meetings is an initiative of the Institute of Zoroastrian Studies for the enlightenment of the community. This event is facilitated by NAMC Institute of Zoroastrian Studies to promote knowledge through free but respectful discussion and debate. The views and opinions expressed during the discussion are those of the presenter and participants and do not reflect the official policy or position of NAMC. So following a brief talk by the presenter, we will open up the floor for discussions with the presenter. You can either raise your hand or post your questions in the chat feature, but please be respectful of the views of others. And now I will hand it over to Ervad for an introduction to Jal Panthaky.
Okay.
Jan, not you. I don't know this.
Arda, you are muted.
Okay, thank you. I was muted, so I can talk. I thought my baby was in charge of this. Anyways, thank you again, everyone, for joining us. Really appreciate that. And Temtan, thanks for the wonderful introduction. So today I would like to introduce Ervad Saheb Jal Noshirwan Panthaky. Jalbhai has a diploma in HVAC engineering from City and Guilds of London Institute. He also has a certificate in HVAC design from McGill University. Ervad Jal came to Montreal, Canada in 1967, where he provided religious services to the community. He moved to Toronto in 1983, where he worked as an operations manager at the exhibition place, a division of the City of Toronto. I'm sure all of you know these things, but it's important to remember his great achievements. Over the years, Jal has provided various religious services to the community, including performing navjots, weddings, and then again the navjots of the children whose wedding he had performed. So now the next time will be, he will be performing the navjots of the great-grandchildren, hopefully. He is one of the original 13 founding members of Directors of Ontario Zoroastrian Community Foundation, OZCF, and has served on the board as president, secretary, a board, and as a director. He has also been on facility management committee for many years there. For the last 7 years, he has translated liturgical books from Gujarati to English with all the rituals. He has provided training to young Athornans for them becoming Navar, Martab, and taught them other religious services, including Jashan, Zafrangans, Satums, Gesarna, Saroshutamno, Charum, and other ceremonies. More importantly, he is presently working and providing weekly training through Skype to 2 young Athornans in the United States, one in Colorado and one in California. So I really thank him because I didn't know who I would call to seek for this help. So I just picked up the phone and called Jalbhai and said, hey, Jalbhai, I have 2 kids. Would you be willing to help them? And he didn't even think. He said, yes, tell me how. And I was shocked. I didn't even know what to say to him because I wasn't prepared. I thought he would say, let me think about it and then give you an answer. So I and NAMC sincerely thank you for helping us. He has also assisted NAMC in developing to write the paper on Vaishnunga. So thanks again. And with that, Jalbhai, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Erishwan. Appreciate. Okay, so I'm going to talk about Vendidad as a book of prayers and also a book of laws. My distinguished fellow Mohammed Sahibs, Mohammediyar scholars, and all those who have joined in, I thank you for attending the presentation of Vendidad. So I have prepared some agenda, and I'll go through very quickly. There is preamble, introduction, reference, background of Vendidad, meaning of word Vendidad, when Vendidad was written, place of Vendidad among avasthas, 21 nas, the 21 nas which are named corresponding to Yathavarya's 21 words, division of 21 nas, terms used for chapters in avastha books, subjects covered in Vendidad, when Vendidad can be performed, where can it be performed, order of recital of Vendidad, synopsis of progress, brief review, and finally, my views, comments, and questions. So before I start explaining the purpose of this presentation and my views on some part of Vendidad, I want to inform you all that I'm neither a religious teacher nor a religious scholar as compared to some of my distinguished fellow Mohammed Sahibs, Mohammediyars, and all the participants. In all presently available higher liturgical book in Gujarati or English, the recurring passages to save printing costs are not printed, instead marked as Java, with no reference to the page numbers. So to assist young Athonan boys desiring to become Nawar and Martab, who are not trained in madrasas, I have transliterated all these Yajasna Spirit, Yajasna Pitvan, various Bad Dharna ceremony and Vendidad from Gujarati into English script and reprinted all the recurring passages. So when I was teaching Vendidad to the young Mohammed from my English Vendidad book for his Martab, I got interested in reading the meaning of 22 chapters of Vendidad, which discusses the purity, cleanliness, and avoidance of evil. When I read the meaning of some of the passages of various chapters, I was surprised and even shocked to read about some of the prescribed sins and penalties. Some of the described sins and penalties are completely outdated, obsolete, and not even applicable in present time. Some of the laws of Vendidad, which belong to the pre-Zoroastrian people, it does not seem proper and practical today. Every law which in the past was prepared and enforced by the wise men of the time. It was good and useful for its own days. However, it is not for all the people and for all the time. Therefore, some laws of Vendidad which belong to the pre-Zoroastrian people should not be considered today as proper and practical for all the people and for all the time. I am wondering if during the performance Vendidad, we should continue to recite some of the paragraphs and passages that describe sins and penalties that do not make sense to recite them in present time. However, we will review some of those passages further down the presentation before discussing about it. Before we proceed, I want to make it very clear that as the only surviving NASC and as a historical information, we must preserve Vendidad in its entirety. I am only questioning if we should continue to recite some of those obsolete paragraphs and chapters during the performance of Vendidad. Although generally the references are given at the end of the presentation, excuse me, I have decided to provide it upfront to allow the viewers to know the material I used to prepare this presentation. I have relied on the information obtained from the following references: J.J. Modi, Behram Gaurang Klesaria, K. Edelji, S.F. Dubash, Dr. Ervad Ramya Karanjia, James Darmstader, Gershevich, editor version Joseph Patterson, Wikipedia, and Encyclopedia Iranica. The Vendidad originally was presented by ancient early oral traditions and later was written as a book of laws for Zoroastrians. It is a book of the Avesta, the Zoroastrian scriptures. Most of the original Zoroastrian scriptures have been lost over the years due to destructive invaders such as Alexander, the Islamic Arabs, and the Mongols. The Avesta consisted of 21 nasks, or the books, named after 21 words of Ahunavar or the Yathavarya. It is one of the surviving Avestan books. The different part of Vendidad vary widely in character and in age. Although some portions are relatively recent in origin, The subject matter of the greater part is also very old. The name of the text is contraction of the Avestan language called Videvadata, the law given against the devas or the evil spirits. In Pahelvi, it is called Javid Shedada. In Persian, it's called Judivda. It's so called because large part of Vendidad furnace contain rules, regulations, and instruction as to how to withstand best the bad influence of evil. A part of Vendidad may be called the sanitary code, and a part the criminal code of the ancient Iranians. As the name suggests, the Vendidad is an enumeration of various manifestations of evil spirits and ways to confound them. The Vendidad was written between 200 to 400 AD, either in the later years of Parthian Empire or during the Sasanian Empire, the last Persian Empire before the Islamic conquest. Even though its writing is late compared to the rest of the Avesta, the material Vendidad contains is much more ancient. Some of it may date back to pre-Zoroastrian times. Ashur-Zarathustra appeared at a time when Iran had a powerful king Vistas of the Anand dynasty. The king and his civilization people had their own laws for every stage of life, from judicial through civil, trade, agriculture, cattle raising, medicine, education, and others. Under such conditions, no one would have asked Zarathustra to find the answers from Ahura Mazda for various sins and penalties. If someone would have asked him, Zarathustra would have replied, I have come to teach people how to lead good life. In Sasanian Iran, the entire Avesta, 21 books, corresponded with 21 words of Yathavarya, as mentioned before. According to the Dinkar's book 8, which is the Acts of Religion of Sassanid era beliefs and customs, the Vendidad form the 19th Nusk of the Avesta's 21 Nusk corresponding with 19th word Dregubio of Yatha Ahuvaryo. However, J.J. Modi in his religious ceremonies and customs of prayers notes that some rivayats, which is religious information sent by priests of years to India, place the Vendidad as the Avesta's 20th book corresponding with Avnavar's 20th word Dada. So I have given you here prepared the list of the corresponding names of the books that correspond to each word of Yathavarya. I'm going to go through it very quickly. Yatha, Stutgar, Ahu, Varsta, Vairyo, Bag, Atha, Damat, Ratush, Nadur or Nadar, Ashad, Pazan, Chit, Ratushtaid, Hacha, Barish, Vangeus, Trasasrop, Dasda, Vistaspad, Manangaho, Da, Shotnanam, Chidras, Angeus, Spenta, Mazdai, Bianias, Shatrimcha, Nidyam, Aurai, Duvarasrajait, A, Husparam, Yim, Sakdam, and Dregubyo, the 19th word, Judevdar, Vendidad, or Videvadar. And the 20th word, Dada, which also is written Videvadar, Dada, but according to the Dinkar, the 20th book corresponding to Dada is called Hadoknas, which is Gathic group. And of course, the last Vastarem is Yash. So the 21 Nas are divided in three groups called Gasanic, the Datic, and Hadamantrik. Vendidad belongs to the second group, the Datic, of the group of books containing laws, rules, and regulations on religion, sanitary, social, criminal, avoidance of evil, and other matter. The division or chapter of different parts of the Avesta are known by different names, like chapter of the Yas and Visparad are known as Kardas, chapters of Yasna known as Has, and chapter of Vendidad are called Fargats. A glance through the content of Vendidad shows that although its rules and regulations are very old, some of them were hygienically very effective in its own times, and even few of them may be accepted to be good today. For example, washing hands after going to the bathroom, washing hands and cleaning hands before eating to recite Jamvani Bash, and to observe silence while eating to avoid choking, etc. So I have prepared the subjects covered in various furgers of Vendidad, and same subjects reappear in a different furgers. So I have kind of tried to group them here, and I will go through very quickly. First furger is about dualistic creation legend, followed by the description of destructive winter. Furger 2 recounts the legend of Ima Jamshid. 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 16, 17, and 19 talks about hygiene, in particular, care of the dad. 19 relates the temptation of Zarathustra, who was urged by Angramanyu to turn from the good religion. Instead, Zarathustra turns towards Ahura Mazda. 9 and 10 on cleansing. Further 7, 10, 11, 13, 20, 21, and 22 on various disease, its origin, and spells against it. 12 talks about mourning for the dead, part of 6 and 19. 6 is for the Tower of Silence, and 19, the remuneration of deeds after death. Part of Furgers 3 and 6 again, sanctity of an invocation to earth. 6, 8, and 21, sanctity of an invocation to water. Furgers 8, the sanctity of invocation to fire. Part of Furgers 4, the dignity of wealth, charity, and of physical effort. Other parts of 4 and 6, dignity of marriage. Part of 4 and 15, statutes on unacceptable social behavior such as breach of contract and assault. 18, on the worthiness of priests and praise and care of the Sarosh bird. 6, praise and care of the Homa tree. 13 and 15, praise and care of the dog. And 14, praise and care of the altar. That is called Vendidad and Vendidad Sade. The Vendidad carries only the 22 furgers, whereas the Vendidad Sade is an Avestan text consisting of interpolated chapters of Yasna, Vismeran, and Vendidad verses in order of their recitation during the Vendidad ceremony. So when Vendidad is performed, well, Vendidad is generally performed in Ushenga by the Zoroastrian priests from midnight to dawn. The ceremony lasts for 6 to 7 hours, which takes up the better part of the god. As the day's darkest hours are believed to be the time when evil seeks to raise its evil powers, Vendidad ceremony can be seen as the laying down the law against evil, thereby providing a spiritual defense against the power of evil. Vendidad is also performed during Martab ceremony as part of training of Zoroastrian priests graduating from Navar to Martab level requires proficiency in performance of Vendidad ceremony. It is also performed on the conclusion of Nirangin ceremony, which Nirangin ceremony consists of 9 days and nights of Barashnum, 11th and 12th for the performance Yasna, 13th to the 17th performance Yasna and Ushenga, and finally Vendidad ceremony, then perform with dedication to Sarosh and with appropriate ritual. Vendidad also is performed during the consecration of Atas Behram, Atas Adran, and Atas Darda. It can also be performed at the request of a family in memory of someone who has passed away, or at the request of a community member seeking spiritual purification and protection or removal of evil. Vendidad is generally performed in the Yasnaga of the Atas Dadga, Atas Dadran, and Atas Behram, but it can also be performed in any space, including an area of the house, provided the space has been ritually cleansed and purified using gomez, which is thorough, and water. In addition, of course, the pavi is also to be created using sand. The order of recital of Vendidad is composed of 72 has of Yasna, 23 kardas of Vispera, and 22 furgras of Vendidad in following order. And I'm not going to read through, but some of the Yasnahas would appear first and then followed by Vispera Karda and so on. But I just want to show you when the Vendidad starts to come into Vendidad study is after performance of Yasnaha 25 and 27 and the recital of Vispera Karda 12. That's when Vendidad Furgat begins with 1 and 4. And it keeps interpolating with Haas and Visperat Kardas and Vendidad, etc. However, after the performance of Yasnaha 52 and 53, the final Visperat Karda, 23rd Visperat Karda, is recited, and then that is the end of Visperat within that performance of Vendidad. And followed by Vendidad Fargrat 19 and 20, then Yasna 54, and Vendidad 21 and 22nd Fargras, which is the end of the Vendidad Fargras. And then Vendidad is concluded by reciting Ha 55 to 72 of Yasna to complete the Vendidad ceremony. A brief review of contents of Vendidad Fargas reveal that it's quite a heterogeneous work. Rather than the creation of a single author composing in his native language, Vendidad is a conscious product of a redactor or redactors who has assembled diverse material from sources now mostly lost. A glance at various chapters of Vendidad shows that the book is a compilation of numerous stories, legends, history, science, art, religion, and laws of ancient Iranians. They were put together during the Median period by Western Magi's. Further review of the contents of Vendidad shows that most of the book is set forth in a structure of question proposed by Zarathustra to Ahura Mazda, the wise god, and Ahura Mazda provides the answers. In order to show the Vendidad as the laws of Zarathustra, they introduce every paragraph of the chapter as Zarathustra asks Ahura Mazda, what is the penance for a prescribed sin? And Ahura Mazda answered sentences. This does not necessarily mean that any of the material in the Vendidad Fargat comes directly from the Prophet or from Ahura Mazda, or that the Prophet asked such question or wrote the Vendidad. In several Fargats and paragraphs, some of the questions written as posed by Zarathustra are ones he would never have asked. Similarly, Ahura Mazda would never have responded with such penalties for the sins. Zarathustra's gathas have nothing similar to these type of questions and penalties requests to Ahura Mazda. This was a policy of the composers and compilers of the later Avesta, who wanted to have their old scriptures to be attributed to the Zoroastrian religion and to give credibility to their writing. According to the Zehner, Richard Charles, and other scholars, the Vendidad is thought to be a Magi-influenced composition. The Magi's were the religious leaders of the Median people. The Vendidad consists of 22 Fargats containing fragments of discussions between Ahura Mazda and Zarathustra. The arrangement does not suggest it was composed by the Prophet's generation. There's a degree of moral belief apparent in the Vendidad, and the diverse rules and regulations are not always expressed as being mystical, absolute, universal, or mandatory. The Vendidad is mainly about social laws, morals, customs, and culture. In some instances, the description of prescribed behavior is accompanied by a description of the penance that have to be made to atone for violations thereof. Such penance include payment in cash or kind to the aggrieved, repeated recitations of the certain parts of the liturgy, such as the Onavaria invocation, a corporal punishment, such as whipping, and even beheading. Following are the meaning of some of the paragraphs of Vendidad Fargas. To draw your attention, I have used bold letters to highlight the prescribed punishment. Most of the paragraph starts such as Datare Gaitina Mastavaitina Masham, which means, O maker of the material world, thou holy one, followed by the question, and then Ahura Mazda, meaning Ahura Mazda answered, and followed by an answer. So let's look at some of the Fargat's meaning. Fargad 1 provides the information about 16 perfect lands created by Ahura Mazda and as many plagues created by Angramanium. Fargad 2, paragraph 1 to 20, provides Ahura Mazda proposes to Yima, the son of Vivanga, to receive the law from him and to bring it to man. Upon Yima's refusal, Ahura Mazda offers him to keep his creatures and make them prosper. On the approach of the deadly winter, which is to destroy every living creature, Yima, being advised by Ahura Mazda, builds a Vera, which I believe could be a cave or an underground city like maybe Derin Kuyu or something like that. That's just my thoughts. To keep there the finest representative of every kind of animals, plants, and they live their life of perfect happiness. Fargad 3 is mainly covering the earth. The third Fargad may serve as the commentary about what comforts most the spirit of the earth and what discomforts most the spirit of the earth. The earth gets comfort and feels happy when faithful recites to Mitra, the god, Iranian god of sun, justice, etc., where the faithful erects houses to raise family, cattle and every blessings of life to thrive, grows grains and fruits, and water the dry earth or drains the ground that's too wet. So the prayers which is recited in this language, which goes like this: Data rigatinam astavaitinam sham wabiti mangahao zemo shaistem atmrota rimazdao yetaba paiti freshtem saire nikantes panas shairista nara echa irista. What it meant was Zarathustra's question to Ahura Mazda, O maker of the material world. Thou Holy One, which is the place where the earth feels most painful grief? And Ahura Mazda answered, is the place wherein most corpses of dogs and of man are buried. Zarathustra's question to Ahura Mazda, when the earth feels the most painful grief? And Ahura Mazda answered, the earth feels grief where the most dogma stands, in which the corpse of men are deposited. This is, by the way, Fargad 3, paragraph 9 of Vendidad. Zarathustra also asked a question, who will help the earth rejoice? And the answer was, the one who will dig out the most corpses from the earth. Zarathustra asked question, who will help the earth rejoice? Again, in the second place, it will be the one who will pull down most of the dogmas. And I think, in my view, these bans against burial were probably to protect and preserve the scarce, valuable agriculture and pastoral land. These are just my views. O maker of the material world, thou Holy One, what shall be the place of that man who has carried a corpse alone? As we all know, during Paidas or the funeral, Zoroastrian funeral, the Nase Salar, the pallbearers, they are connected with a pavan. So the question here is, what if somebody alone carries a small body of a baby or something? And the answer was, it shall be the place on this earth where there is least water and fewest plant, where the ground is the cleanest and the driest, and the least passed through by flocks and herds, by the fire of Ahura Mazda, by the consecrated bundle of balsam, and by the faithful, far away from the society and community. On that place, the worshippers of Mazda shall erect an enclosure, and therein they shall establish him with the coarsest food, with the most worn-out clothes. They shall let him live till he becomes very old. Then, by a strong man, cut his head cut off on the top of the mountain and feed his corpse to greediest corpse-eating creatures and vultures. Zarathustra's question to Ahura Mazda, who is in the fifth place, will help the earth rejoice? And the answer was, the one who gives help to the faithful and pious farmer who tills the earth. Because being an agriculturist at that time, I think there was more importance given to the farmers and the tillers. If one would not give help to the faithful farmer, the Spenta Almighty will throw him down into the darkness, down into the world of misery, the world of hell, down into the deep bottomless place. If one buries the corpse in the earth and does not unearth it within 6 months, he shall be punished by 500 lashes with aspaye astra, which is horsewhip, and a 500 lashes with sorosha charana, which is bastindo or stick or a club or something like that. If one buries the corpses in the earth and does paragraph 37 of further 3, one buries the corpse in the earth and does not unearth it within a year, he shall be punished with 1,000 lashes with astra and 1,000 with sorosha charana. 200 lashes? Flogging, nobody could endure. The religion of Mazda takes away from him, further in the further 3. The religion of Mazda takes away from him who makes confession of the bond of his sin, takes away the sin of breach of trust, takes away the sin of burning a corpse, takes away the sin of deeds for which there is no atonement. It takes away the worst sin, any sin. Really? By confessing, any kind of sin is taken away, then all the prescribed penalties for prescribed sins in previous chapters means nothing. Somebody has to just do any kind of sin and just confess. But just my view again. If a contract by verbal handshake or payment by agriculture animals are broken, the penalty is from 300 to 1,000 plus 1,000 lashes, and that person can become Peshotanu, which is worthy of death. Further 7 discusses about how to clean someone who ate the meat of a dead dog or a man. That person's house shall be destroyed. His heart shall be ripped out, his eyes shall be removed, the druj will take hold of him forever and will remain unclean forever. Very barbaric punishment prescribed here. Our Mazda urges everyone to pull down dogmas and discusses in paragraph 7, paragraph 51 to 52. Our Mazda urges everyone to pull down dogmas and discusses about benefits and rewards of destroying dogmas. And further down in paragraph 7, if a woman gives a birth to a stillborn baby, she will be kept in a secluded place with a little food without water, only gomez, milk, and a milk to drink for 3 days. But there is a penalty of 200 plus 200 lashes.
Oh my God.
Penalty of 400 lashes to a grieving mother who just lost her baby. Further 8, no clothes to be thrown on a corpse. If someone throws clothes on that body, even just to cover the feet, it's a sin and shall be punished with 1,000 lashes. Further in paragraph 8, unlawful lust, sodomy, homosexuality is outrightly condemned. The offenders are compared to male and female devas and demonic presence in the Mazdayasni societies. Penalty for them is 800 lashes plus 800 with Aspastra and Sarasacharana. Paragraph 8 further down talks about purification of fire defiled by the dead nasu. Whoever burns the nasu or cooks nasu must be killed. Hey guys, no more barbecue because we can be killed. There are penalties described for various acts and sins from lashing to killing. There are some sins and penalties that we may not even think of. Paragraph 9 talks about if a man who does not know the rites of cleansing according to the law of Mazda offers to cleanse the unclean, what's the penalty for him? Our Mazda's answer, paragraph 9, paragraph 47, for those who would like to read later. The worshippers of Mazda shall bind him. They shall bind his hands first, then they shall strip him of his clothes, they shall cut his head off the neck, and they shall give over corpse to greediest of the corpse-eating creatures and the vultures. Cruel and barbaric punishment. Now, these are my views. I can continue giving example of such penalties for many different sins described in some other figures. However, just some of the examples I've described above should be sufficient for us to think and discuss if it is worth reciting only such passages during this performance of Vendidad. Following the Gathas as our prime guide Vendidad is a deviation from the non-prescriptive abstract teaching of Gathas. In my opinion, some phrases and passages of Vendidad as a document has no religious value, but is only a historical or anthropological interest. It's time to change and make appropriate correction by not reciting such paragraphs and phrases. Sometimes religious practices and traditions need to be changed because they are no longer relative or applicable in present time and place or as the new society changes. The traditional mindset needs to be changed. As the world and people evolve, social laws change in every era and place because the mentality and knowledge of people do not remain the same. It's time to take decision to make appropriate changes. By this presentation, my aim is to explore an ongoing dialogue rather than accept outmoded prayers and rituals. Some of us feel that if these traditions are not continued, we somehow will let down our culture or our identity or our ancestors, or we may even lose a part of ourselves. Can there be a way for tradition and integrity to coincide when our prayers and traditions stimulate cruelty or harm? Religious ceremonies, prayers, and rituals have to be meaningful, should have reason and purpose for its performance. Vendidad, as mentioned earlier, is laws against the evil spirit, but the evil within and without, and should have nothing to do with the cruel penalties. In my opinion, there is no reason to recite the obsolete and irrelevant passages describing those penalties during the performance of Vendidad. If we wish to perpetuate our religion in North America and other places outside India, we have to decide once and for all. Should we blindly follow the irrelative rituals, the rules and practices still carried out in India? Should we not be willing to adapt to conditions prevailing in North America and elsewhere to make meaningful changes? Without justified reason, we don't have to allow ourselves to blindly follow the age-old practices. Some of the religious practices and tradition need to evolve to meet the changing requirements of present time and social context. A few years ago, I asked the same question to some other morbeds and scholars, and the essence of the answer was that are chalwa deu, or because it's an only surviving nurse, we should continue, etc. So I'm in favor of preserving the entire Vendidad as a historical document as only a surviving nurse out of 21 original nurse. Sorry, I'm only questioning that during the performance of Vendidad, should we continue to recite the irrelevant and outdated and obsolete paragraph describing those penalties that does not make sense in present time? In all the previous NAMC presentation, at the end of the presentation, there are questions by the participants to the presenters. This presentation is different in the sense that I am asking questions to all of you to get your views and answers to my questions on Vendidad. Should we continue to recite the irrelevant and obsolete phrases and paragraphs that have no religious value during Vendidad performance, or remove such paragraphs during the performance of Vendidad? If the answer is yes, we should prepare the Vendidad by removing those objectionable passages and phrases to recite during the performance of Vendidad. I will be more than happy to prepare it and present it to NAMC for final approval. However, if we disagree and decide to continue to recite such irrelevant, inappropriate, and obsolete paragraph that makes no sense in present time, what are the logical and sensible reasons to continue reciting them? And so it is up to all of us to decide. And now I leave it to all of you. Thank you very much for your participation. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Jal Saib. That was an excellent, excellent presentation. So let's stop sharing so we can see everyone on the screen.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so now let's open it up for people to say whatever they think about it. Every time you need to talk, please unmute yourself. Once you're done, your question or your comment, please mute yourself again so we can have a good discussion. Go right ahead, Mayor, you have a question.
Yes, thank you. It's a question and a comment also. Vendidad is performed for the protection and removal of evil. But from all these things that I've heard it looks like it is more proposing more evil. And why should we perform the Vendidad when we have so many other beautiful prayers like Gathas and everything, and even the Nirans? I mean, if you want, we can take it off all these little
Paragraphs.
the
Passage.
Oops. Looks like you muted yourself. Mayor, we cannot hear you.
Okay, Tinton, she's asking if you can hear her.
No, I cannot hear you.
it's something not, Janu, can you come and
Put it on chat, darling. So I can
can you
say,
tell, yeah,
yeah, come here and say, it. Come here and say, it.
okay.
Come here and say. It. Okay, go ahead. Yeah, message.
Sorry, I think my computer is not working properly. All I'm saying is that Vendidad is performed for the protection and removal of evil. But it seems like it is proposing more evil than getting rid of it. And my question is there a reason that people should perform the Vendidad? Because there are so many beautiful prayers in Gathas, and even to get rid of the evil and all, we have got beautiful little Nirangs. So why don't we all keep that one and then get rid of Vendidad by itself? Because I'm really disgusted to hear what those penalties are, especially about the woman has given a birth to the stillborn child. Absolutely disgusting. And just by saying that I'm sorry and confessing it, you get rid of all your crimes. Unbelievable. Our religion is so beautiful, and why do we have to keep these stupid things in there? I don't understand. I'm sorry. That's my views.
Okay, anybody else?
Can you unmute him or-
Pachi. Windows Meta raise a hand.
Abadane mukni. ये लोग मारू समझियो
Yeah, now they
कहीं कहीं तो बद्दा muted છે
they look muted shape and we are not here. So Temton, I think there are some two hands are raised. So
something is not right, Danny. We cannot hear anything.
this is on the chat, darling. Is
Something is not right.
Can you read the chats, please, and then answer accordingly?
Yeah, but Janu, she said to
Sorry?
read the chats and answer accordingly.
okay, sure. Because I could not see
Chat
it.
is here.
Yeah, okay. Interesting. Lashes of both punishment. and
But where Jagannath Upar bija?
There are several comments. So
Yeah.
all prayers are based on vibrations and not on translation. Hence, we should leave them in an agreement that we shall not live by those laws.
What?
Hence, we should leave
them
them
and
in
agree
and
that we
agree.
should.
Well, that's an individual opinion, yes.
Wispy Gigi. Oh, Wispy Shaya, Gigina.
Yeah. May I recommend that instead of
Limiting certain Vendidad.
may I recommend consideration? May I recommend consideration of assessing them from a to doses from a have to have a punishment. Versus something else more in line with those good words. Yeah, I think Vishpi is asking. So basically, I'm only saying that I'm not saying the entire Vendidad is bad. I'm only suggesting about the passages that provides the corporal punishment. That those are the passages that I am questioning if we should be reciting. But I leave it to every individual's opinion, of course. So, lot of bad.
Can I speak now?
Sorry.
Yes,
Yeah. Okay. Firdaus.
Gal, can I speak?
Yeah, it is.
Gusti, go ahead, Gusti.
Fantastic presentation. I loved it. Thank you very much, Gal. I have gone through this many times in many places and discussed a similar situation with many mobheads around the world. Yes, if one, and I'm not trying to knock anybody down, but if one believes that you have to not pay attention to the meaning, if meaning is not necessary, then one can continue and believe, and whatever you want to do is okay. It doesn't make any change to anybody. But if you believe that what you are saying and essentially talking to our Mazda makes sense, so you have to need to know what you are saying, then obviously you will try to understand the meaning. I'm not knocking the other part. Please understand, just the meaning. I have talked this over with many of the, including Vara Dasturji, about the same situation, not only in this but other matters, and their answer has always been, Dikra, chaltu aayo te chalwa devan. What is going, this is what they call status quo, but they're not titling it as status quo. They are titling it as tradition. That is really a false title. Chaltu aayo te chalwa devan is not tradition. I even asked them to their face, with all due respect, very politely, that if you want chaltu aayo te chalwa devanu, why do you get up in the morning when you go to Atasbera Gary and call a taxi or a car or a bus or a train? Why don't you go on a donkey or a horse or a camel like you used to do? Chaltu aayo te chalwa devanu. Why are you changing that? So they understand, they know. But see, they have different kind of pressures and different ways of explaining. Yes, I agree with you that in North America, we do not have those necessary constraints, necessary community properties that we need to protect and uphold. We have a little bit more openness and freedom here to apply the reasonable, logical analysis, which is also required in the Gathic teachings. Our religion is not devoid of reason or analysis. So in a sense, I do agree with what you have said. I hope I'm not offending anybody. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Khushru, go ahead, Khushru.
Okay, couple of observations. First one is a question. Are we absolutely confident of the translations as we see them?
Something has gone.
Number of these translations are in allegoric form. Somebody who's more knowledgeable can probably tell us whether the allegory has been misinterpreted. In number of other prayers, we find that when they talk about the soul of the cow, they mean the soul of creation. And cow, just Geush was translated as cow, whereas Tarapawala says Gau is land, so soul of the earth. Are there similar instances where our translations have gone totally askew and we are reading probably wrong? Is that a possibility? Somebody who's more knowledgeable than me perhaps can throw light on that.
In my opinion, the Avastha words with different sentences, same word may have different meaning related to that particular sentence subject. And so, yes, a lot of the Zoroastrians and non-Zoroastrians authors, those who have translated Vendidad, they vary. Everybody, you read everybody's translation and they all vary. So, yeah, but there are, like I think Ankleswarya's and few others that I read, So I have taken these common penalties that I read in 2-3 different areas, which I mentioned here. But of course, I have no knowledge of Avesta, and I don't know whether they are translated right or wrong.
I had discussed with Bevaina about translations, and the answer that Bevaina had given me, Johan Bevaina, was mostly they are all working from Kangaji's dictionary. Is that true? I don't know. Because there are, Taraporwala and all, they are all philologists, and they made their own translations or at least derivation of words. So I don't know whether they're working from one dictionary prepared by Kangaji way back when, or they have now, somebody smarter has come up with better ways of translating. This has always been a discussion about that, translations.
Haven't seen any current one.
No. Kawas, bolo.
Kushu, I have often wondered why even I agree with what Mayor has said, why we even agree of praying the Vendidad. In my opinion, from having read many translations of the Vendidad, I tend to agree with what Richard Zehner had said, that it was written down in the 10th century, not prior, not during the Achaemenian dynasty, but even it was written down after the Arab conquest, and not before. It is my belief that we are sanctifying it merely because tradition says that it was the only entirely Naskh that survived in its entirety and not otherwise. And so we have made it sacred. I have often questioned what the benefit is to perform the Vendidad to become Martab, to perform the Vendidad to perform the Nirangin ceremony. I have maintained the Nirangin ceremony was adopted by us after we came to India, and it is not a Zoroastrian ceremony. If you look at the Vendidad, the drinking of Nirang is only allowed in one circumstance, when a woman gives birth to a stillborn child and not otherwise, and that is to cleanse the grave within the womb. There is no other instance in the Vendidad or in the Gustav Naskh which says that Nirang has to be drunk. Applying Nirang to the body is a different matter for cleanliness in those days. And I have often wondered why we even sanctify the Vendidad, why we should pray. As far as I know, in Iran, to become a Martab, the Vendidad is not prayed. So and I agree, why do we continue to follow practices which have been obsolete and which have been proven to be wrong?
Very good point.
Thank you. Can we have
People have their hands up, so
Yes. Let's go to
Kelsey,
Kelsey.
if you want to call.
Yeah,
This is
Kelsey does too.
Can you guys
thank
hear
you.
me?
Thank you. I totally agree with Kawas, and Giles, thank you so much for a wonderful presentation. I am not a scholar, nor am I a practicing Mobed, but I'd always heard about these issues with the Vendidad prayer and other rituals that we have. My comment here is, one of the things that we need to keep in mind, especially in North America and outside of Bombay and India, is that our religion, though, is under a microscope increasingly these days, as are many of our ceremonies and things like that. And many times I am called upon by my friends and by other faiths to explain the crux of our religion. And when we have things like these, like in the Vendidad, it gives a completely, in my opinion, not only wrong, but deceitful sort of view of our wonderful universal faith laid down in the Gathas by Zarathustra. And I also agree with Kawas when it said that, this translation bias issue has been raised by many traditionalists. I think it's a straw man, because by the time the Vendidad was written and the later Avestans were written, we have very good translation, scientifically proved. Ours is a rational religion based on science and reason. In Gatha 29, Zarathustra says, and it's a universal faith, and we have to examine everything with our good mind, and then it is our choice to take action. And it's a religion which is based on Zarathustra's gathas. Now, in the later gathas, in the later Avestas and the later liturgy, I believe that there has been an enormous influence of other faiths like Islam and Christianity, which has crept into not only our practice, but also our traditions. And a lot of these things about whippings and beheadings and things like that, and also the forgiveness. There is no concept of forgiveness in the Gathas. There is action and the consequences of your actions. So it is quite likely that the priests, fearing sort of loss of their power and loss of people to other religions, sort of incorporated all of these foreign ideas into our religion. And I think we owe it to ourselves to examine our practices so that we take the best of the best from the origin, from the words of Zarathustra and the Gathas, and trace them through our practices. That's what I have to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, can we go to Vispi? Vispi Jijina.
Computer, but when she has a question, she said, can you put it up?
Vispi Jijina, go ahead.
Type karo ke.
I am, looking at what Jalanko presented, this book is a book of laws when outside of the church, there was no structured law and order society like modern society where we have a system, we have police, we have judges, and we have prescribed laws and prescribed punishments. And the way I understand this, back then, most likely the mobeds that went and become martabs, that were full mobeds, basically were the judges. And so this was a guide. And how do you get people to memorize the laws? And one way was to make it into a quote unquote prayer ritual, because the memorization is, as prayers is memorization. What I'm thinking is, instead of saying that this doesn't apply in this society, I'm asking the bigger question. Okay, our mobeds do not need to be judges and judge, jury, and executioner anymore, probably like in the old days. We have courts and systems in books. So why don't we do a reformation like the Christians did and change the Vendidas to some of these, instead of having punishments, but guides, where our mobeds can use them as guides in advising Parsis when they come to you. Like if you, in a Catholic religion, I've gone to many Catholic schools. If you had a problem, you'd go talk to the priest, and he was trained to help someone, go through their whatever problem there was. He didn't come out and say, I'm going to give you 100 lashes, or I'm going to do this. So why don't we change the Vendidas to say, okay, for these situations, which in many instances still applies, like the auntie, who said about the mother with the stillborn child. Instead, the priest should be trained to how do you take care of the mother psychologically, spiritually, and mentally, versus punishment. Everything has been punishment. And that's what I'm saying. Instead of just ignoring something, why don't we reform and change it to something where the priest can use it as a guide to provide spiritual counseling? I'm done. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Gustad Saib has his hand up. Gustad, go ahead, Saib.
Jal, I think you have done an excellent job on Vendidad. And while I put my point, forgive me if I say something wrong, because I could not hear all the things. I've got severe hearing problem. What I'm saying is that, first of all, Avastha is a very difficult language. To understand that, it takes years and years of effort, especially when we depend on all the foreign authors, European authors. They have mastered grammar and philology, but they haven't lived the religion. That is a major problem. That's why wherever I want to read the translations, I always refer to our Indian people, something like Dastur Kotwal or Ramyar or such as this. For example, if you take Gauss Baga Khare Mano, all the foreign authors have said that it is soul of the cow. It's not the soul of the cow. What it is the soul of the earth which says something.
Spirit of the earth, yes.
This is the major problem. Another, you said, have you read any other examples of Vendidad? I have lately following Ilmexnum, and Marasban Hathiram has written 3 articles on Vendidad. You may not agree with him, but read it. It's on the online, where he says that methods of punishment is mostly misunderstood. He says they are allegorically explained. Nobody was whipping anyone with 1,000 or 500 sticks. Have you found any historical record where his neck was chopped or he was whipped with the horse whip? I haven't found anything, Jal. Have you come across any?
May I May I answer this?
No, let him talk.
No, he's asking.
Beg your pardon?
No, I'm just saying, can I please answer that question, or maybe make it a little further? Who in their right mind will even announce that they have been whipped or they have whipped or anything at that time? And even if there is any historical.
No, we have no proof of that.
We have no proof, but who will do it anyway?
For a fact that why is it even written?
Yeah, exactly. And what that has to do with
No,
the
but
cow and everything.
what I'm saying is that there is a different meaning to that. There is a different meaning to that.
Yes.
Okay.
And if it is a meaning that they were really whipped, have you come across historical record up till now?
So my answer to your question, Gustad, is at least there is a translation, written translation, okay, that we are questioning also whether it's right or wrong, but at least that is documented that there are some penalties like that. However, after somebody has been punished, nobody is recording that so-and-so was punished because of this and so was hanged because of that. So nobody keeping that record. So we'll never find those documents or records in any book that you would read.
You mean to say, Jal, that if in the past some atrocity like this was happened, there wouldn't be any record?
No.
History is full of all the records. Some of them are worse than that. So why not the records like this would have been found? This is my question. Another thing is, I don't think that I would take anything out of the avastha, because one reason is none of us is fully understand avastha. And I don't think that any one of us has any right to change those words, unless you can say that I know this better than the one who has written. Another thing, you said that it was written in the median time. Malendra has given complete answer in Fazana at one time. And he says that, no, it's absolutely wrong. It wasn't written in this. So these are the few comments I have.
Jalbhai, you are muted. Jalbhai, you are muted. Hey, Tempton, can I say something?
Yes.
So look, guys, I don't think we will be able to resolve this issue whether A, we should take some paragraphs out from the Vendidad, B, to totally abolish Vendidad. So just for your information to remind everyone, and Tempton, correct me if I'm wrong, along with the other Morbits who attend the NAMC AGMs, we had proposed this question, by the way, Jal. Remember, you had proposed this question to me, and then I brought it up.
Yes.
And the consensus was, hold on, Mr. Radhajanji, I'll let you speak, huh? And the consensus was that we should leave it the way it is. Because who's to decide, first of all, which paragraphs we take out, because we don't fully understand which paragraphs are really bad, or to totally abolish it. And so we have to work with also the dusturs in India. I know this is NAMC, is North American. So we cannot even form consensus, okay? And then every 10 or 20 years, every generation, they start taking out 5 paragraphs now because we don't like these 5 paragraphs. The other guys don't like the other 5 paragraphs. So it's going to be a messy situation. So I think, this is my own humble belief, that I'm a capitalist. I take market-oriented approach to how money is generated, and I take a market-oriented approach about this as well. So by way of information, I asked my 2 sons to not become martab, okay? Because I read and I came to the same conclusion that Jal did. So, but that's just me, okay? But I am not speaking on behalf of NAMC or what NAMC should do and can do. So ultimately the market-oriented approach will work. If most of the Morbits feel that their sons should not become martab, or most people believe that they should not become martab, then there won't be any more martabs left, or we'll have different prayers. So I don't think arguments will resolve this problem. That's my own humble belief.
Okay, thank you, Adda Sahib. I think we have got Karishma.
Just a small, I'm so sorry I missed most of this wonderful presentation, and I will catch up with it as soon as I can due to another webinar. I just wanted to ask one question and then make one humble observation. The only part of the Vendidad that I've read, a small part of a translation from my grandfather's book and my great-grandfather's book, is Pragat 11. And I feel that what I read was applicable even to today's times. So based on that small observation and from what little I was able to catch of this very esteemed congregation here today, I think I should thank you for hosting this, and I will go back and study this webinar. The second thing that I wanted to ask our learned speaker today is, since we don't understand so much of it, and there is a wealth of knowledge in the Vendidad, this is my humble opinion, how should we, younger people who are getting lost in today's world, look to the Vendidad for further guidance?
Thank you. Very good question. I think that's something that needs to be discussed and resolved and answered to by the senior Morbits. But thank you so much for that very insightful question. So we have Freddie. Go ahead, Freddie.
Thank you, Zenton. Thank you, Jal. First of all, my hats off to you. You have done a terrific job, a fantastic job.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
And interestingly enough, this morning we had our ZSO religion class, and I've got kids in my class who are in the age group of 12 to 15, I would say. And last class we did story of Zarathustra. And today I started on the Gathas, and we have 1 hour, of which I had only half an hour, and there's no way I could do more than just a basic skimming of the surface. But one of the things I did over there was I said, okay, one question we asked them, how would you explain the life of Zarathustra to a non-Zoroastrian? And I pretended to be the non-Zoroastrian. And they were doing pretty good until the time they came back to Zarathustra is in King Vishta's court and trying to pull out the 4 legs from the black horse to convince King Vishtaspa. And I said, okay, I'm a foreigner. So was Zarathustra a magician who pulled out 4 legs from a horse? What does it signify? And that kind of stumped them. And I said, look, I'm a foreigner. I know nothing about it. So in other words, Zarathustra was a magician, right? And they said, no. And then I said, then what? And I tried to explain to them, look, black is basically ignorance and horse is basically strength. So King Vishtas was ignorant of the message that Zarathustra was trying to convey. And then he saw light. He saw one by one, the 4 questions were answered and the conditions of him being following the teachings of Zarathustra, etc. So in other words, I tried to make clear to them that the language in the Gathas is complex, allegorical, and to a small 6-year-old kid, how can we explain these things other than a story form of pulling legs out of a horse? And I said, Zarathustra was trying to teach calculus to a 2-year-old kid. He was trying to preach the message he received from Ahura Mazda to satisfy the soul of the universe. An emotional message in the Gathas, which is right in the middle of 72 has, covered on each side by other yasnas. So it were 2 million verses that we had at one time that we have lost. Now, if we are going to reduce more and more and more and more, like RWF has said, we are voluntarily reducing our avastha as opposed to historically or tragic events. We have only 10% of our avastha left. So in my opinion, live the things as they are, pray with devotion, whether you understand or not, concentrate on your prayers and try to satisfy the soul of the earth or the universe, period. Thank you.
Okay, thank you,
So,
Freddy.
sorry. So if whatever we recite, meaningless, like whether we understand or don't understand.
Bingo.
Just pray.
Absolutely. We have to concentrate on the words and not the,
Yeah,
because the meanings are going to vary from people to people, person to person.
But would the words have a meaning or no meaning?
Concentrate on what
Would
you are
the words
praying.
be with the meaning or no meaning? My question to you is, words would have the meaning or no meaning?
Is your heart going into your words? Because there is a very good saying, words without hearts never to heaven go.
You didn't answer my question, but that's okay.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Let's go to Dolly Dastur.
Thank you very much. Ajal, I think you need to be complimented for bringing out all the anomalies which were there in the Vendidad as opposed to the Gathas, And even whether we understand the translation or the translation is not correct or whatever explanation we want to give, the very philosophy which is mentioned in the Vendidad is so opposed to what is mentioned in the Gathas. There's no question in the Gathas of chopping off somebody's head or to be so vindictive, which is so obvious in the Vendidad. So maybe we should try to find new translations. If we think that these translations are not good, maybe we should command somebody to go and learn into this language of the Vendidad and see what was really there. Because what is there is putting off the younger people from following the religion, because they're feeling so isolated with what the reality is, what is reality in the religion and what is reality outside. I think we need to have a very serious discussion amongst the Bobets in the NAMC with the Indian Council or whatever to look deeply into what the Vendidad really is. There may be something very important, there may not be something important, but we need to study that. But without studying that, we cannot do anything. The translation may be wrong, as somebody mentioned, as Kushru mentioned, some may be wrong, but then what is the solution? Get a better translation. How are we going to get a better translation unless we have somebody doing deep study of that?
Thank you, Dolly.
Dolly.
I want to just make one correction and comment here. I like all parts of Vendidad are not bad. Only certain portion of the Vendidad that I am saying should not be recited.
Yeah, but what do you mean by saying not bad?
Majority of the Vendidad, because it includes, like I said, Yajashna, it includes Vispirit, which has beautiful meaning. The Yasna includes also the Gathas. So like part of all that Vendidad. And so only I'm saying the certain passages
I
of
understand
the
that.
Fadgaras.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, Dolly, what you're saying is absolutely right. And I think Gusti also mentioned who knows if the translation is correct. But if that is the answer I'm getting, that in fact makes me wonder, why should we even recite if we don't even know the meaning of it? If we don't know whether this translation is right or wrong, then why are we reciting it? That's my just comment.
I agree with you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dolly.
Dada Chanji Sahib, go ahead.
The punishment shown is to show you how what we call important is that particular offenses. It is not to what we call execute that particular thing. There are so many other what we call punishments are there. We have to pay so much money. We have to get so many things in a Vendidad. So this is to show you how how much what you call importance is given to that particular part of the punishment. It is more or less, I think, on a later part of it, it has been translated into dirhams. So I think we need a more study on that particular thing. We understand Avesta to a greater extent, but what is written all is to show you what is the importance of that particular punishment. This is the idea of whole Vendidad.
Okay, thank you, Dada Chanji Sahib. I think Bommy Damkewala had his hand up.
Yeah, thank you, Jal. That was a wonderful presentation. I really liked it. And you brought out very important points. Also, several other people have pointed out. I think we, North American Morbid, should all decide whether this is really an appropriate prayer to be recited for this, all these important ceremonies like the consecration of fire, of our Dadgas, also for, ordaining the Morbeds and important. So there are several, as Mayor mentioned, I totally agree with her that there are so many other beautiful prayers that are there. Those should be used for these purposes rather than this is more like a hygienic code. I remember Kekashu Irani also had mentioned it when he was in Chicago a long time ago, that Vendidad is more of a hygiene code rather than a philosophy of our religion. So I think we should certainly consider putting some other nice prayers for these important ceremonies. And that's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Kushru has a comment again. Kushru, go ahead. You're muted, Kushru, you have to unmute yourself.
Hi, a little further on the translation part. I read in the sacred books of the East, I think, where it was mentioned that at that time when Pahlavi was trying to translate into Pahlavi from Avesta, the Manichaean controversy had come up. And, there was a lot of anger against money. There was also the nature of those people translating. So they were translating from Avesta, they were using the extreme sense of what they believed it should be. I don't know if I'm making sense, but it was twisted. The translation at that point got twisted because of their views on money and Manichaeism. So whether that was the original intent, the Srosha, I'm sorry, I don't know the full word, but the 1,000 lashes with the Srosha something.
Charana.
Srosha Charana, exactly. In my humble opinion, Srosha stands for obedience. Maybe that was an allegorical reference to repentance of some kind. Just as a thought, not as a bamboo that is being used to hammer the living daylights out of the guy, but that repentance, that for committing a pollution sin, the sin of pollution rather, this guy should repent. It's just a possible answer to what sounds like a really extreme punishment. Nobody would survive 1,000 lashes, first of all. They die before that. A few hundred lashes and people are in a bad shape. So 1,000 lashes, they'd be dead. I think there is a lot of misunderstanding of the translations. There's a lot of mistranslation of the whole text. And until some whiz kid with the computer tries to solve out in a philological manner and using the spiritual sense behind each article, you have to use the spiritual sense. That's what Taraporwala always said, that the Western scholars lacked the spiritual background for translating the Gathas very often. And they would make a dairy farm out of something that was not meant to be a dairy farm. This is a thought behind it, that it is a combination of using philology, but using the spiritual intent behind it.
If we say, sorry, Kush,
yeah, go ahead. Yeah,
if we say that none of the scholars are correct because of the language is difficult, the words are difficult to translate, and their spirituality is different, or the knowledge of the Zoroastrian religion is different, whatever. So when we say that everything that is translated from Avestan language, including the meaning of the prayers and the yash and the gaze, and that is in accord Avesta, even that should be questioned then. That means even those translations are not correct either, if you are challenging the certain translation only with the argument that they were not, because they were foreigners, that they were not knowledgeable.
It's like taking what doesn't fit this picture. You know those puzzles that come, okay, what doesn't fit this picture? And you have 10 pictures. One of the pictures or two of the pictures may have something which is not in any of the other pictures. And that then is how they can wean out the wheat from the chaff in the case of the Vendidad. If it doesn't fit that spirit of that particular thing, of the religion, like you said, Ashok Zarathustra would never have prescribed anything like this. Ahura Mazda would never have replied those kind of stupid answers that you read sometimes in the Vendidad. So it doesn't fit the picture. The pattern does not fit. So some computer genius can, by process of elimination, work out that, okay, these are the 10 translations, and yet all of them seem to be going in this one direction in this way. But then there are these other 20 translations that are going entirely in another way. And that is some kind of a process of elimination that could be used by, as I said, somebody with algorithms to work this out and come up with the most likely translation for that particular phrase or word. It's something beyond people like us, at least me, for sure. But
Jal,
yes,
I just want to point out, lately I was looking at the translation of Yasna 53:7, which the German scholar Jumbach had translated. And I was discussing that with Ja Bagli. Ja sent me 20 translations of different scholars of the same paragraph. They were all different.
That proves the point.
They were all different. And that is a problem. Now, which translation you would pick it up and say, this is correct? That's where I said, if you want to understand a little bit better about translations, I think you should read a little bit of Ilmexnum. You may laugh it off. I was laughing at one time for Ilmexnum, but after reading some of it, I think they have something.
Okay, thank you, Gusti Sahib. Could we go to
you.
Kobad, sir? Kobad.
Amir Kobad.
Kobad, you to unmute yourself.
Okay. Jal, thank you very much for the beautiful presentation. It requires some guts to come up with some, what do you call, basic information on prayers, what we call prayers, and everybody accepts it just because it's prayer. And you have come up with something which Morbid Council should follow up on this thing later on. And we should come to a conclusion that if it is not a prayer, why should we be praying it? I'm very sometimes disturbed by people who say that, oh, you just do the prayers, don't worry about the meaning. Okay, and that's like, it shows your own ignorance. You're trying to pass it on to the children or to the adults who you're talking to. Okay, I think when you understand the meaning of our prayers, you feel it. Okay, and you recite it well. You feel the what the message is. Like Kem Namazda, very common prayer we do every day. If you know, we are asking for protection from everything happening in the world. That's how the prayer is. So you feel that. And please don't, if you don't know, send them to somebody else who knows something about it, like Jal or other Morbids of NAMC. They might be able to, if they can't know, they'll research it and give it to them. But just telling the children or adults saying that, oh, like I had a big discussion with some Morbids in India once when I was there. I said, what is this stupidity of saying, you know, so many yatha videos for in case of you don't want to do certain niyas? Why? Who came up with this formula? You know, it is meaningless. There's no meaning behind it. There's no purpose behind it. You do 180 yatha videos to take care of a niyas. Why?
Kobad, there are so many things in today's world. We do it without knowing the meaning. You go to this opera. Do you understand every
That
word
says that
the
I don't
singer
go,
says?
Gusti. I do not go to opera because I don't understand one word of Italian.
That is what I'm saying. Many
I
of
don't
us
go.
to opera. You
I don't
go to
go because of
classical
it.
music. You read the classical music.
I don't read. I listen.
Yeah, you listen. Do you understand?
No, I don't have to
what it
understand.
says? No.
Music
That
is something
the
you don't understand.
oh,
Music
that
is
is the
enjoyable.
thing.
Music
That
is
is the
enjoyable.
thing.
My 2-year-old granddaughter, okay, when I put what you call classical music, on my Google, she goes to sleep nicely. That's what I know.
Well,
Okay, so I do not, music is something which people enjoy. Prayers is something what means something to you. Music doesn't mean much to me. It's only listening.
music is the same thing, Kumar.
That's what you say.
Many people go to the
I agree with
opera,
you.
they enjoy it, but they don't. But does that mean
I
that
don't
you
care.
can't
See,
listen?
that's to show off. If you want to go to opera, to show off to other people, yes, please do that. Okay. I don't go to opera because I understand one word of it.
Okay.
because
I think there are a lot of other hands are up. I think we should.
But what I'm trying to say is, with Morbid Council, I think, Adan Tempton, please don't ignore this subject. I think we should look at it and we should investigate more into this matter. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Kobat Sahib. We'll go to Khurshid.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes,
perfectly.
yes, Khurshid.
Thank you, Jal, that I learned a lot definitely about Vendidad today. Thank you very much. In fact, I'd like to get a copy of your presentation. My question was just generally, how many times do you pray Vendidad in North America or in Toronto? How many times a month would you say?
Actually, Khurshid, it has been already prayed in somebody's house here, right here, in Mississauga.
Yes, I know that house. But
Yes,
I think,
so-
is it a prayer that people are generally because
Whatever
in
the
Pakistan,
reason, whatever the-
in Pakistan, we used to pray for a housewarming if somebody bought a house. But they told me here that it's prayed for a different reason. So is this true that it can have a double? You can pray for a housewarming and also for a sad occasion, or is it just like in Pakistan? It was always just prayed for a housewarming when somebody bought a new house. So is that? I think there's another year they pray for another reason. Is that correct?
Yes, but whether we have to pray once or we have to pray 15 times, the question is, should we recite these paragraphs? That's all my presentation is.
Yeah, but I was saying, is it, since we are on the topic of Vendidad, is it prayed for a housewarming or for a sad occasion? What is the answer to that?
She's breaking up.
Yeah, your voice is breaking up.
You know what I'm saying? Is it prayed for a happy occasion or a sad occasion, or for both?
Janu, she's saying, is it we should pray this for sad occasion or a happy occasion?
No, Vendidad is generally only prayed, as you know, like we just talked about it, that it is only for the evil, to eradicate the evil, evil within or without. So, and I already mentioned when Vendidad is recited is during Martab time, during the consecrations of place of worships, whether it's Dargah, Adran, or right? And in fact, we will need to perform Vendidad when we build our place of worship right here. And so Vendidad, and the Vendidad has been recited when Houston, yeah, so Vendidad was recited by 5 Mohammeds. I sent that to Bestia Prasoli. Dastur had requested the English Vendidad progress, which I sent it to him because I had already translated 5 Mohammeds recited Vendidad in that again.
Right, okay.
So, and it is going to keep happening here. We are talking about the future, not the past or the present.
Okay.
Thank you. Appreciate your question. But I like your question. Thank you.
Thank you. We go to Maruk Tamboli.
Okay, it seems, as we've said, that this Vendidad prayer or parts, Fargad's parts of it, are quite different from what our entire religion stands for. And it has nothing to do with our religion, some of these parts. Also, it's been determined that it may have been written during the time of the Medes, or maybe it was written in 1000 BC, 1000 AD. If it was written in 1000 AD, then obviously there was a strong Muslim influence, strong Christian influence. Therefore, as Freddie said, Could it be that these certain parts that don't actually fit and are not in line with our religious beliefs, could those be misinterpretations? So then we would go to Dolly's recommendations that yes, if the NAMC of Mobbeds are going to do something, the first thing to do, in my humble opinion, I'm not even a Mobbed or anything, would be to get somebody knowledgeable and at the same time from a religious and maybe Mobbed family to interpret these things again and determine if this is the interpretation is correct. I truly believe that interpretation is important when we pray, but I also believe that vibrations are very important when we pray. Both are important. And if there are some parts of interpretations that don't fit, as Freddie said, then obviously they're wrong. There's some, maybe instead of giving a woman who's delivered a stillborn baby 200 lashes, maybe what they're saying is that the angst that she goes through is like 200 lashes. Maybe that's what they're trying to say. We need to get somebody scholarly, somebody of Zoroastrian background, somebody spiritual, who really can translate it again for us. Before we throw the baby out with the bathwater and say, no, we're not going to say these at all, we need to know, is this the true interpretation? Because it's not fitting with our religion. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Maru. Very well said. We go to Behram Sahib. Behram Sahib.
People are talking about translations. First of all, many of the speakers have conveyed that our religion is very philosophical, is allegorical. Just to give you an example, Dr. Eraj Tarapowala, in his tome, Divine Songs of Zarathustra, has listed 15 translations of our basic prayer, Assembo, which has only 12 words. You go to Yathavaryo, next prayer, which has 21 words, and he has listed 34 translations. Now I leave it to you which translation to follow, even for our basic prayer, Assembo and Yathavaryo. Which translation do you explain to our children, our kids, toddlers in a class? So it is a very difficult, complex issue that we are right now discussing. For the prayer Yenge Hakam, he has listed 9 translations. So it is very difficult at our level, though I'm sure some of us are scholars, but then we got to decide where do we want to go? In which direction do we go from here? Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Behram Sahib. We go to Karishma. Sorry, can't hear you, Karishma.
Thank you very much, Saib. It's really wonderful. It's a blessing to listen to all of you and learn from all of you just through this discussion. I wanted to just make one small comment after listening to the various presentations at the Parliaments of World Religions, and COP26 is coming up from the UN next month. If we just take, for example, this one little book that I'm holding here with an introduction by Postwala Sahib, suggests to me that when we read parts of the Vendidad or translations in the context of the Gathas, because as our teachers have said to us, in essence, the Gathas contain that very sprouting seed of the extant Zoroastrian texts, developed further, yes, in different contexts. So my question to Jal Panthaky Sahib is this: suppose we read parts of the Vendidad in the context of the Gathas, and we learn from a person who is knowledgeable in both. Will that help? That was one question to Jal Sahib. And then the second thing I wanted to say was to the gentleman who talked about the 53.7. in the 53.7, there are words that are very similar to the Aryama issue. It talks about misdem, the reward. It talks about reward for good and for bad. Now, if we look at a Gathic verse in the context of the Aryama issue and in the context of 48.4, where it says your reward will be based on your belief. So to me, that seems like one way of approaching it, so that the one and only Nask, which is in its completion, we don't lose. Jal Sahib?
So sorry, I lost your original question.
The original question was this: since the Gathas, the sorts of ideas from the Gathas have been further elaborated in the Vendidad, at least that's my small understanding.
No,
and this particular book that I was reading suggests that it may help us to read one in the context of the other. I wanted to know your opinion on that side.
The Vendidad that contains the portion of the Yasna and Vispera are the portion of the Gatha's teachings and all. I'm only referring about the Fergat portion of the Vendidad, which is not even in the similar, language that is a part of the Yasna or Vispera. And that is where the problem is happening, is because, like Gusti and other, and even Behram mentioned, that every prayers translated by so many scholars, and just because we are saying, let's find somebody today to find, I mean, those scholars are very educated people, and they themselves could not agree on their own translations. And so how are we going to resolve? And so therefore, I'm bringing this question to all of us here in North America as to what we want to do with it. And that's basically is where I stand.
So Freddie, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Thank you again, Denton. Thank you, Jal. A really interesting conversation. As usual, the after part of the topic is much more interesting in the questions than the topic itself, but you did a fantastic job. First of all, I personally, I'm not a scholar or anything. I'm a lifetime student myself, learning from everyone, even my students. And I tell them that, as I said earlier on, how can you translate an emotion into words in any language? If you're happy, you show an emoticon of a happy face. I'm sure you'll have 21 different translations of that face. Zarathustra was trying to emotionally express in his songs the message of the spiritual leader of all spiritual leaders, Ahura Mazda. A very complex issue, but he was emotional. I would say we should rewrite the name as a devotional, emotional songs of Zarathustra. Because in the Gathas, correct me if I'm wrong, but in one of the passages, he's asking Ahura Mazda for 10 pregnant mares and a camel for anyone who is practicing Asha. Isn't there something along those lines translation? Yeah. So the kids ask me, but we are told we should not accept anything for doing something good. And here you have Zarathustra asking for 10 pregnant mares and a camel for doing something good. So the answer I give them that again is allegorical. Because Zarathustra is asking for 10 pregnant mares. Mares are somebody who are like having strength. Pregnant means they have got knowledge or something. And as Gustav has said earlier on, some of these things are pointed out in Ilme Krishnam, especially late Dasturi Sahib K.M. Dastur had a little book on Navjot itself. And some of them, he gave us a couple of days lectures at the Bemer. And he was trying to compare these allegorical references with what they mean in our everyday life. So my point to you is, again, if you can explain to the kids the general meaning that, look, hey, you do something like that, we are punished. Don't tell them 1,000 floggings. Don't tell them, like in Shah Hamid, Firdoshi himself was trampled to the ground because he didn't want, he wanted to be, the king wanted to put him in the ground and trample elephants on his head. But I skip over that point when I tell the story to the kids. But these are some of the things that we have to kind of play around, but not lose the meaning. Like, if you do something bad, you're punished, period. That's a reward and consequences kind of a thing. But whether it's 1,000 floggings or 10,000 floggings, that's to me, it's immaterial. Point I have, Jal, actually is for you. Atash Kadeh. To me, the term Atash Kadeh is a place where Atash is installed. Is that right? Like holy fire. And if we are like Darbe Mer is the lowest grade of fire, right? Below Adaran.
Maher Yazar, yeah.
Maher Yazar,
in
right.
the Maher Yazar.
So if we are having, let's say, but it is one more than what is the connection between Atash Kadeh and Darbe Mer? And do we pray Vendidad when one is installing or consecrating Atash Kadeh?
Yes. Even the Dadga, Atash Kadeh could be a Dadga.
But Dadga is our house fire, right?
Yes, house fire.
Yeah.
Dadga is a house fire. But when we establish a Dadga in a place of worship, even then we have to perform the Vendidad.
So, I mean,
there is a consecration requirements for Atash Dadga, Atash Adran, Atash Behram. There are different.
Yeah, that I know. But Atash Kadeh, I know that even Atash Kadeh requires consecration.
When you keep saying Atash Kadeh, Dare Maher, household fire, but which is all Dadga too, Dadga fire. But when we establish, which is whether you call Atash Kadeh or Dare Maher, but when you establish that fire in that place, that place then requires the consecration and prayer of Vendidad.
That my question is, I guess in Houston, they had this recently, or in New York, they had Atash.
Yes.
Right? And they had Vendidad ceremonies done there, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
But not the Vendidad Sadeh. It was only Vendidad that they
only for one day.
Only 22 Fergras they recited.
Okay.
Not the Vendidad Sadeh that includes the Yajashne and the Whisperer and the Fergra.
But that's not required. That's not required.
No, that was what they chose to do.
Okay.
When you want to really do the Vendidad prayers, this is all. That's why it takes 6 to 7 hours to recite 72 chapters of Yasna, 23 chapters of Whisperer, and 22 chapters. That almost 500-600 pages worth.
Absolutely.
And so that's why it takes 6-7 hours to recite it.
And how many mobbers do you require?
Normally, it is only 2 mobbers that do it. The Vendidad.
And the mobbers themselves,
they got to go through Varashnam ceremony.
Yeah, exactly.
And all those kind of stuff. Yeah. But that's besides the point.
Yeah.
But when you are consecrating, let's say Atash Behram, it could be like if only 2 mobbers perform. It takes 3 years to consecrate.
Of course. Yeah. Thank you so much. Thanks, Charles.
Yeah, but but if you take 4 pairs of mobbed, and then you can maybe do it in a year or in a year and a half. So it's all relative.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Freddie. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Jal. Adas Sahib has a question. Go ahead, Adas.
I don't. Tendon Sahib, I have a very dumb question. So look, we have so many participants here. So I think each of us came here with a bias, whether we agree that it should be changed or not changed. And then there's another group that believes it's allegorical. How many of those who believe that it's allegorical have changed their mind, or vice versa? I'd like to see it by show of hands after coming here. And I know the answer, okay? So you haven't changed your mind. So, okay, so look, I think we can have this discussion all day, and my own belief with Parsis in general is that they rarely change their mind. So I slightly disagree with Behramji Panthaky because look, whether Yathavedi has 5 meanings or 10 meanings, they all are in the same direction. Okay, whether you say it's the best or highest virtue, it's similar, okay? But this is like very different. So I don't believe that it is NAMC's place to go and say we want to change prayer books right now. I don't think we have people who are smart enough to write artificial intelligence algorithms. I don't know who amongst the mobbeds is so smart to write those algorithms to find out what is, because you can introduce a bias in the algorithm, because whoever writes that is using his own brain. So he can introduce biases. So I think it's a very theoretical discussion, in my humble opinion. I am in line with what Jalbert is saying, but that's just my thinking. And I think everyone who says that, we have to respect their opinion. I think societies fall apart when we try to pass diktats. So I am against passing any diktats, but we should tell them what we believe and provide both sides. That's what I believe, Kobat said.
Thank you.
Thank you. And the last word now goes to Kavased.
It is my belief that the Vendidad is more a book of rules for cleanliness rather than a book of prayer.
Okay.
It is also my understanding that the Vendidad is performed for the consecration or for the cleanliness and the consecration of the building, not of the fire. Because Vendidad has got nothing to do with the consecration of the fire. It is only for the consecration.
Kavas, may I say something on it? Hello?
Go ahead, Jal Sahib. I think we lost Kavas, looks like.
Oh.
Okay, go ahead, Jal.
No, because I was just reading actually J.J. Modi's consecration of Atas Bairam. And
That is why the Vendidad is prayed at night.
yeah, no, about the consecration of Atas Bairam. And yes, there is a ceremony that has to consecrate the fire and then also consecration of the building.
Yes, but
the center sanctorium.
Yes, but my understanding is that for the consecration of the fire itself, Vendidad is not prayed.
Yeah, you're.
Okay, thank you so much. I think we are just about 2 hours into this discussion.
I think I stirred up something. I'm so sorry if I did. But I think it needs to be really I think we need to, in North America, we should really, because this is our future here, our future generation. And I think we need to resolve this because if they read these kind of translations, because these are the only available translations, of course, there are multiple, but they will read them and they will totally get turned off it. And so if we don't do something about it, we will do some disservice to our future generation, in my opinion. I thank you very much for everybody participating. And if I have touched on somebody's raw nerve, please forgive me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jal.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you so much, Jal. Appreciate that. So ladies and gentlemen, just keep in mind that 2 weeks from now, we have another event. And this is the Hum Bandagi and Boy Ceremony explanation by Zaxis Bandara. So don't forget to join in and take this opportunity again to thank Jal for this wonderful, wonderful presentation. And let's hope that we all learn from it. Thank you.
Thank you, Tentan.
Thank you. Thank you. Kobat sir, you are muted.
I just want to ask everybody, and mostly mainly the Mobbits, if they have some issues like what Jal has come up with, we would want to hear from you, and we'll put you, give your time to challenge people's thinking. So, and we need people like that and to challenge our thinking. So please volunteer. If you're not a Mobbit, if you're a not a Mobbit also, we would welcome you to speak. If you have some issues on the Zoroastrian religion, which we could be discussed like this in this forum, please do contact me and then we will set you up. Thank you very much.
I have a question now. Recitation of Vendidad. What relevance does it have to recite Vendidad on the 4th morning during when somebody's death ceremonies are carried out? Does it have relevance?
Not so sure if the Vendidad is recited during the
Charamne dore. You know, Pakhliratna Uthamna dore, we recite Vendidad.
Idea for
But
that,
that but that you may start at midnight onwards, right?
Yes, but then does it have any relevance? My question.
I have no clue on that. I have no idea.
Gustat has a point. Go ahead, Gustat sir.
3 days, the soul remains on that spot. And it has been said that the soul is trying to recover from all the evils attacking her. That is the idea. It is to
protect the soul.
It is
Protect the
to
soul.
protect the soul.
Yeah.
Okay, Dada Chanji Sahib, you have a comment.
Beg your pardon?
Dada Chanji Sahib, Dada Chanji. You are muted. You have to unmute yourself.
I still can't get it.
And Dada Chanji, please unmute yourself.
Yes. But for all
on
this,
that birthday morning, it is a Saraswati who will guide the soul to the Chinvat pool and to help the soul during that journey. We are reciting Vendidad. That is the reason. I'm clear on that, or?
No, that's perfect. Thank you so much, Dada Chanji Sahib. That's absolutely clear. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And we take this opportunity to thank everyone for joining. Okay, and we look forward to seeing you again. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Tempton, on other count, if you have a minute.
Sure.
You know that podcast, you are supposed to give me a call.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, we will connect.
Okay, fine.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank
you.
you.
No problem. Thank you. Thank you.